All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Sonja Courtis here with Jodie Ross, and it's episode 2 of our series called the Body Wisdom Series, where we bring you probably I like to sort of call the cutting edge information on health and well-being in relation to illness and disease. And today's topic is one very close to mine and Jodie's heart, because one, we work with anxiety with our clients, but two, because we've both individually experienced it, and that is anxiety. And we chose this topic for today because we decided that with everything that's going on a global scale at the moment, knowing that the levels of anxiety are so high, we wanted to share this really useful information with you. We're going to dive in quickly to describe what is anxiety so you have a greater understanding, what causes it, and then we're going to explain to you what you can do to overcome it. So, Jodie, without much further ado, let's talk about what is anxiety. How would you describe it? I've got my ways, but...
I describe anxiety as with anxious feelings in the body, first of all. So it's uncomfortable feelings in the body, but it's a nervous system response to a perceived threat. So it can be real, can be imagined, but it's literally your body having a response to what you're feeling or what you're thinking is going to be dangerous.
Yeah, same. So as I described to my clients, anxiety is a fear of the future. It is an anticipated sense that something is going to go wrong. Now, we need to differentiate here between anxious feelings, which we all get at times, to chronic anxiety. Now, we're going to be talking about chronic anxiety here. It's a really interesting thing that anxiety is also very strongly felt in the body, and we're going to delve into what's going on and why that is, because people will often come to me as a client and say, oh, I've just got this terrible anxiety. And most people that come to me with anxiety aren't even diagnosed. They just know, because it's this overriding, pervading, constant sense that something really bad is going to happen, or you are affected by chronic panic attacks as well. So that's another part of what anxiety is. Another little just side note, it's not your intuition letting you know when something's not right for you, because that's another one that people ask about. When you're able to decipher it, you know that anxiety truly is it's very body based as well.
It's felt very physically.
Very physically.
Yeah.
Very physically. And we're going to talk about why that is. And Jodie, you explained it beautifully to me before, so I'm going to let you explain it.
Well, if I can do it again. Or let's talk about first, though, the purpose of anxiety. So why is it there? Yeah. You know, you explained this beautifully, that it's literally to alert you to danger or the threat, and to help you be prepared. And I guess from a physical level, it's to help to supply your body with the fuel. So the extra energy hormones and the oxygen. So the extra fuel that you need to literally help you get out of the situation. And, you know, if that happens in short bursts, it's okay, because we need that fuel. The problem is, and we mentioned this last week when we talked about stress, the problem is when it's prolonged or continually triggered, you've got all of this fuel in your body that's literally got nowhere to go. It's kind of like overcompensating for a danger that's perceived and not really there. And that's when we get all the yucky feelings. And, you know, it's so different for different people. You know, some people it's panic attacks. Some people it's just a sick feeling in the belly. Some people it's fast talking. Some people it's freezing. You know, there's a host of sleep issues.
Yeah.
You know, so for the reason it's there is literally to help you.
Yeah.
But you explain that really good.
And that's the aha moment. So I say to a client all the time, I say, because when people come to me with anxiety, they come to us because they want to overcome it, because it's ruining their lives, it's stopping them from moving forward in life. However, there is something. The brain is so powerful. There is a conscious, unconscious thought process going on in the brain that's sending messages in the body, and it's telling you this. If I say to a client, if there was a benefit to anxiety, if anxiety had a purpose for you, what would it be? And they say, well, there's no benefit to anxiety. I went, that's your conscious mind telling us that. Delve deeper, sit with that question. If there was a benefit to anxiety, what would it be? Well, it's trying to keep me safe. Yes, it's trying to keep you safe. Now, the next question is, how safe do you feel when you're anxious? Well, I don't.
I don't.
Right. So then tell me, is anxiety really helping you? No. So what feels more like safety? Safety. So I say, can you see that this thing that's happening in your brain and your body, which is a mechanism to help you feel safe, is actually causing you to feel fear? Therefore, we've got to help you work through and clear those times in your life where you felt unsafe, and Jodie's going to go on this to allow you to then realize that it's safety that creates safety. It's feelings of safety that creates safety, and get rid of anxiety. Because people literally on a subconscious level think, if I'm not anxious, I'm not safe.
Yeah.
And that is not the truth. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
You know, and that describing that to a client, so just quickly, Jodie, when you describe that to a person, they go, when they see that their anxiety is trying to help them, that lets go of the resistance to the anxiety and that push against it, because they realize, it's part of adaptation. It's part of the human bioenergetic process to help me trying to help me cope in an environment that I may be under threat.
And it really is, like, it's literally, we talked about this last week. If your body's got a choice between helping you survive or helping you thrive, it's going to help you survive first. So if the alarm bells are going off in your brain, oh my God, something's not right, I'm in danger, something bad's going to happen, then your body is going to be geared to help you get out of it. And that's when all those physical responses happen, and why anxiety can feel so uncomfortable. So the trick is exactly what you said, Sonja, is to get yourself feeling safe. And that's internally feeling safe, but also making sure your external environment is safe as well, which we will talk about more later.
Yeah. So now we're going to go into the actual underlying cause of anxiety, because it's really very fascinating. I think it's fascinating.
Oh, same. It changed my life when I knew this stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I guess the first thing to really think about, and before we can look at, okay, what are the things we've really got to look for with anxiety, is we have to understand a little bit more about imprints and memory and literally what's going on in the psyche. So what happens is when we have an experience that means something to us, and that means it can mean something to us in a good way, but also in a not good way, what happens is our psyche takes a mental snapshot of it and a physical snapshot of it and imprints it, or codes it, if you like, into our memory banks. And that can be then remembered by a sight or an image, or a sound or a word, a taste, a touch, a smell, a feeling or a thought. So what it then means is then all those things, anything in that memory that's been imprinted or coded, can be a potential trigger. So if they're good things, that's great. It's going to trigger good feelings. If they're not good things, it's going to trigger the shitty feelings and the hard feelings. So, a perfect example of that is, we talked about it before. I've experienced this so many times. You're in the car, a song comes on the radio, you haven't heard it for 15 years, and then all of a sudden you can remember all the words. It also can bring up a feeling. You can remember where you were when you had heard that song. And, if that was a good memory, then that song's going to make you feel really good. But if you're in the car and a song comes up, or someone on the radio says a word or tells a story that reminds you of something that's been distressing for you, then again, it's already been imprinted and encoded. It's going to bring up all the yucky feelings for you as well. So what happens is your body literally is getting a reminder in some way, whatever, the sight, the sound, the touch, the smell, the feeling, or the thought, but there's been some sort of reminder, and this is what we call a trigger. Okay, and so then it can evoke the same feelings and the physical response that you might have had once before from whatever that is. So why this becomes relevant for us is because once we've had those imprints, they're not just imprinted in our brain and our psyche, also into the brain. So the brain is what directs our body tissues what to do. So when we're experiencing something really physical like that, the brain is literally directing the body and telling it what to do. So whatever your physical response is, that means that the part of the brain that needs to direct the organ tissue, the part of your body that's required to adapt to help you, then that's what will happen. And an example of that is if you're feeling powerless or out of control, your brain's going to direct your thyroid to produce more thyroid hormones or release them into your bloodstream quicker, literally to help you have more energy and power to get you out of that situation. Or if you've got a life situation that is literally hard for you to digest or hard to stomach, you know, some people say, oh, that makes me feel sick to my stomach, or it's really hard to stomach that. I can't digest it. I can't take it in. What will happen is your body, your stomach will literally start to produce more gastric juices to help you be able to better digest that situation, because your stomach's not just digesting food, it's also digesting life. So the reason that's happening is because of the imprints in the memory, which then affect the brain, which then direct the body and tell it what to do. So how does that affect us, I guess, with behavior and anxiety? So before I go on, have you got anything else you want to add, Sonja?
No, you are doing a great job. Really good at that.
Please interrupt if there's anything you want to add.
Wow, this is great.
So we can get really specific, right? So when behavior is being affected and it's out of context to what's going on. So, you know, you might experience huge anxious feelings are normal when you're sort of doing something new or something that might make you feel a bit nervous. But when you're experiencing like panic attacks or real anxiousness out of context to what's going on, that's when we know, right, there's a few imprints that are going on there. And we can really look for it and go, well, there's been parts of the brain that have been affected, and we call this a constellation. So what it means is it tells us that there's been two distressing moments. So we'll talk about anxiety, right? So if somebody is really experiencing anxiety, what we know is there's been two parts of the brain that have been affected. One on the right side, oh, sorry, that's my left. One on the left side and one on the right. And they could have happened at the same time. They could be, you know, different memories, but it's not until the second one becomes active or the second one's happened that you have, bam, the new behavior.
The constellation for anxiety. Yeah.
And this is why the reason we call it a constellation is just like if we were stargazing and looking in the night sky and we could see the Southern Cross or the Sauceburn or Orion's Belt, the stars are always in the same place. So the same thing happens in the brain. If someone has the anxiety constellation, what that means is the brain has been impacted in exactly the same place for each person who demonstrates that behavior. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing about this is actually visible on a CAT scan, and it's called an impact point. Yeah,
if you scan, and this is where Meta Health comes from, it's based on these brain scans in which they've scanned brains and seen the impact points on the brain. We know this. And like we know that with multiple sclerosis, it's the T2 part of the brain that's activated in order to have MS. That's how they actually diagnose MS. So we know when we scan someone's brain and they have anxiety, we're going to see these activated parts of the brain. So this is based on scientific evidence, you know, of that. And that brain impact is sending messages to the body in a very specific way. It's not an accident. It's not just like the Southern Cross never changes shape, or the pot and that saucepan never changes shape. It's a constellation. It has to have these two things happening for you to have the recipe for anxiety.
Right. That's a good way to put it. So the recipe for anxiety is exactly that. It's the two distressing moments that have impacted the brain in the particular order that create this behavior.
Yeah. And so now, what is the recipe for anxiety, Jodie?
So we were both taught this. When we talk about a constellation, a simple way to think about it and why behavior seems to happen, bam, right now, is to think about a cup of coffee, right? So if you were making a cup of coffee, what are the two main ingredients that we need?
Coffee beans and water.
Yeah. So we can add the water, we can add the sugar, we can change the flavor. But if we don't have coffee beans and we don't have water, we don't have a cup of coffee. Okay. So how we look at that is think about the first distressing moment as the coffee beans, right? So the coffee beans, and the first one that's related to anxiety is a moment of feeling powerless. And that's going to affect the thyroid ducts to literally create more power in your body. an example of that, we were talking about
Well,
this
yeah,
before.
anything from wanting to do something but being told off by your parents because you weren't allowed to do it, feeling like you've got no freedom to do what you want, maybe even going into work environment where you're bullied by a boss. It's anything that you perceive in your mind's eye as something where you felt powerless, you had no control. It's all about control. That powerlessness is that sense of, I don't have control right now.
Yeah, and I can't do anything about it.
Could be a split second, could be a split second thing, but
Yeah.
it's enough to create that first coffee bean imprint. I don't have control here.
Yeah, and also the bigger the moment, the bigger the response too.
Exactly.
So if it's a smaller, I guess, moment that you felt that way, you're going to have a smaller reaction. The bigger the distress has been, the bigger the reaction. And then you've also got to think about what's been distressing to you as a kid compared to an adult, because that's where perception comes into it. But put simply, what we're really looking for when somebody has the anxiety constellation is one memory or one distressing moment at least where they felt powerless and literally couldn't do anything about the situation. That's going to affect one side of the brain. The water, so think about that as the coffee bean. And then the water that we're looking for is a distressing moment. So that's going to impact the other side of the brain. So we've got one already there. Now something else has happened. What we're looking for is something that's perceived heading into danger or danger coming towards you. And so example of that could be physical, it could be literally have been slapped in the face or punched in the face, or even, had a car accident. It could be someone's been yelling in your face, or it could be, what else would you say, Sonja?
I think with anxiety, things like, if you've been in an abusive relationship and, and a smaller scale, it could be just, again, being yelled at by a parent, having a highly aggressive parent or a highly aggressive teacher, yelling at you, a teacher that, you don't know what you're going to get from them each day you go into the classroom, that's could be a potential trigger for it.
And, you hear people say, oh my God, they're so in my face. If that's really been literally something that's distressing for you, then it's going to impact the part of your brain that controls your pharyngeal ducts, which help to they come from behind your ear and right into your chest cavity to help literally supply your body with a little bit more oxygen. So biologically, what that means is anxiety is there to literally help produce more power and more oxygen for you, to give you more fuel to help get you out of your situation. So that's what it's there for. It's and the best thing about knowing that, or for me, when I learned this stuff, I was like, oh my God, that just gives me so many answers to everything. The best thing about knowing it is it gives you back your power and awareness and understanding. And all of a sudden you can have self-compassion because no longer is this stuff just random. It's not just something that's happened to you or out of your control. It's actually biology. There's a reason why. There's a physiological reason, yes, based on your experiences and events, why your brain is directing your body and why that's actually happening. And once you know why, then there's something we can do about it.
And can I just add to that? And that's these two. One part of healing truly is acceptance of what is. So accepting the anxiety, right? Accepting that it's an adaptive process to help you. Secondly, compassion. And I think one of the areas where anxiety is greatly misunderstood by the mainstream, just general people in general, when talking to other people with anxiety, what they don't get is what could create that coffee for you, that coffee bean water situation for you, could be so small compared to someone else who's got
so true.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to add, I've seen this here in Christchurch where some people's anxiety levels because of the earthquakes is off the charts, but their story and their experience is probably not anywhere near as bad as someone else who had a horrific experience and don't even have any anxiety. But it's all based on, like you said earlier, your perception, how you viewed it, how it made you feel, your reaction, what you remember. And that's why we've got to be very compassionate and supportive of people with anxiety, because it's just part of their coping mechanisms. And it doesn't, we sort of judge people and go, oh, what are you anxious for? But you've got to understand they've had 2 incidences in their lives or multiple incidences where this has occurred.
Yeah, and with the same thing. And I think compassion, it's being compassionate to people with anxiety because it is something that they don't know how to control. But it's also, if you experience it yourself, have compassion for yourself.
That's what I mean.
It doesn't actually mean there's something wrong with you. This means that something's happened in your life to cause your brain to direct your body to behave that way. So if you can have that compassion and self-awareness and go, all right, cool, that's there. Yeah, I don't like it, but it's there. Tell me what to do about it. You know, how do I change it? Because it is something that can be changed. And I've experienced the change, so have you. You know?
That is the segue into this next part, because one thing I want to express, and I'm very passionate about this, and this is why I chose anxiety and stress as two of my main areas of focus for clients. And I read a North and South magazine article ages ago about anxiety, and it really hurt my heart because these people in this article were saying, I just have to live with it. Jodie and I are here to tell you that is fundamentally not the truth, because when you rewrite that programming of those events, and we're about to tell you some of the ways you can do that, then you can potentially overcome anxiety. We know this. We've seen it. We've experienced it ourselves, you know. And well, I'll just add one more thing. The levels of anxiety for different people are quite interesting too, because you have this thing called high functioning anxiety, which is people who like to have control over their environment and need everything to be perfect and need everything to be just right. That in itself is a coping mechanism for anxiety. And we want to quickly describe to you some of the things you can go away and try to overcome it. And of course, we're a little bit biased because we work with this all the time. But really,
but we know it works.
And it works, exactly. Exactly.
And the other thing too, just before we go into that, anxiety could be really high, even our current world situation, right? We are in a situation where we really have no control over it. We're all being asked to be home. And we're all being, you know, the media is just, there's this constant barrage of heading into danger. Literally, if you leave your house, you're heading into danger. So this is where perception comes into it. For some people who are finding it so hard and really stressful at the moment, they're the people that I guess are being more impacted by those beliefs, the powerlessness and the heading into danger. If someone at the moment is not experiencing a huge level of stress about what's going on in the world, that means those things don't really apply to them. They're not experiencing it. So if you're listening and you are experiencing more anxiety at the moment than you would normally, or you feel like, oh my God, this behavior is out of control, that's telling you that those themes are alive for you. And though your brain is reacting and your body is reacting in a way to try and help you get out of it. But when it's prolonged and you don't know how to change it, that's when it's really hard to change those feelings. So let's have a chat about how you can change it.
Wow. First thing available to you to turn off that central, because as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, anxiety is a dysregulated central nervous system, right? So we've got, now why is it dysregulated? Because you have literally got an energetic charge running through your body, because those two parts of the brain are switched on. You've got the imprint of the emotional events in your physiology. So the quickest way to shift it is to access your physiology. And sometimes talk therapies are no good for this, particularly because they're re-triggering the reminder of the memories, which are telling the brain is telling the body that you are still in that threat situation. So we've got to turn off that energetic charge in the body. And the most effective way that I truly, and Jodie would probably vouch for this, as an instant reprieve for anxiety is tapping, is emotional freedom technique, because it does just that. It is sending this kinetic energy to the body to tell the body to switch off that fight or flight response, to let it know that you are safe, and then it's literally discharging the energy of the anxiety. It's discharging it until you can get yourself into enough of a calm state to then start working with matrix re-imprinting, which I truly believe, and I'm sure Jodie's the same, is one of the most, I've said this for things like trauma and anxiety, it's one of the most powerful processes for overcoming the causes, the memories, the events, the thoughts that are causing the anxiety. And you'll probably want to add to this, Jodie, in that regard.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. But I guess for me, the simplest thing to do about anxiety is to create a new familiar that feels safe, right? And that can be external solutions, but also internal solutions. So both the two that you've just suggested, I wholeheartedly agree with. They're internal solutions, right? They're also externally, I guess tapping also externally is something that we can do. But external things are like you know, do you need to change your environment? Are you in a situation that literally you don't feel safe and you feel powerless? You know, do you need to change your social situation? Are you surrounding yourself by people that just are feeding into that and don't make you feel
triggering
good?
you?
You know, is it nutrition? You know, sugar, huge trigger to these sort of feelings. Caffeine, alcohol, drugs, you know, all those things really feed into it too, because what they do, they're stimulants. So anything that's sort of, what's the word?
Activating.
Thank you. Activating your sympathetic nervous system, which is your on nervous system, is going to feed into that. So have a look at some of those things and go, are they things that practically now that I can change? I know some people at the moment are choosing not to talk to the people that are making them feel anxious. Yeah. The other stuff is the internal stuff. And this is where the real change happens. And that is things like, you know, your breath work. We talked about that with the stress video last week, extending your exhale. You know, that literally sends a calming signal to your body. Tapping, meditation, and matrix re-imprinting, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Sonja, is my number one in this scenario. The reason being is the word, it's re-imprinting. We talked about before, the reason we've got the anxiety constellation happening is memories that have imprinted the brain or coded messages into the brain that are now directing the body. So what matrix re-imprinting does is it helps to locate, well, first of all, what were those distressing moments and discharge the energy in them. But secondly, we get a chance to re-imprint a new message or re-imprint a new code.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's where I've had the biggest success with people really being able to overcome anxiety is with matrix. But you know, whether that's your way or, you know, there's other ways.
There's other ways. Psych K is a really good one.
Psych K is a great one for beliefs. Hypnotherapy, you know, meditation can be exceptional as well. Anything that can help you get literally your psyche out of the past and into the present moment, so then the message coming from the past doesn't have to drive your future in a distressing way, is what you need. And tapping and matrix are certainly our go-tos. And
it's funny because I didn't mention meditation, but you know, I think it's because we talked about it last time, but 3 deep somatic breaths, in for 2, out for 4, through the mouth. Diaphragmatic breathing tells your body, if you can breathe into your diaphragm, it tells your body straight away, I am safe. Most people are shallow breathing up here, but as soon as you're able to send some deeper breath into that diaphragm, it's sending a message to that central nervous system, I'm safe. And Dr. Herbert Benson's research into the relaxation response says 10 minutes, you know, we know that any shock to the central nervous system is enough to sort of trigger illness and disease, but 5 to 10 minutes of he's called it the relaxation response, is enough to reverse the impact of those, you know, and anxiety is a form of illness. It's a form of, you know, chronic condition. So again, it's that activation. So there's so many things you can do, really, you know, and not a lot of them. You don't have to miss. I mean, I will always, you know, advocate for do the tools, do the breathing, do the tapping. However, if you really want to get to root cause and really overcome root cause, it's really best to work with a practitioner. You can overcome stuff like this on your own, but bang for your buck, it's going to take you a lot longer.
Sorry, Sonja.
No, just get in there and see someone and work with it straight away.
And there's also stuff you need to do yourself. You know, you can go and see a practitioner like you or me or whoever is your person to help you deal with the big distressing stuff. But then it is up to you on a daily basis to do stuff that literally helps to regulate your nervous system. Yeah. So that might be your breath work. It might be your meditation. It might be your yoga. It's a combination. It's never just one thing anyway. A combination could be, every lifestyle choice matters. You know, that's a quote from one of my favorites, Sammy Thorpe, that all your choices matter, but there's so much you need to do on a daily basis that can really help regulate your nervous system. But and for the deeper stuff, like if it's really a problem and there's stuff going on that's caused it, then definitely that's when you need to work with someone to help you.
And that's a shameless plug for the work we do, Jodie, and I'm okay with that. So on that note, people, I think that's pretty much covered it quite fully today. It was a little bit longer than last time, but this is a really important topic because it's very common. Jodie and I would really appreciate it if you could share this video. If you're on social media, follow Jodie Ross, and that's with a D-I-E on the end of Jodie. Ross and Sonja Courtis.
Yeah. My Insta is at Jodie Ross Health. So JODIE ROSS Health.
Yeah, and you'll see that at the front of the video and at the end. And yeah, just remember, your health is your wealth, everyone. We thank you so much for watching this video. Please, please, please share. The more information we can get out there to help people, the better. And on that note, we'd just like to thank you for your time. And Jodie, have you got anything to say?
No, just thank you as well. Lots of love and love and light to all of you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.